Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here, and first off I want to say we hit 2,000 subscribers. That's just crazy to me. I'm sorry if I don't sound really enthusiastic. It was like 2 days ago, but I honestly can't believe it. Thank you guys so much for your support, and seeing it was just a crazy number. So I have a special thanks to you guys at the end of this video, and I'm working on the 2K special right now. Just give it some time because I have my math exams tomorrow, so I'll be focusing on that. Also, I'll be giving a clue to what the 2K special will be at the end of the video. Anyways, let's get right into the what if. So for the usual recap, Izuku got into UA with Reyes, and he also got one for all from All Might. They did regular canon stuff like the quirk apprehension test, the hero versus villains, and the USJ, which is where we left off at. So let's start there. So after being treated by the on-site medics at the USJ for some little bruising and scratches Izuku had, he and Reyes started walking back to his house. But Reyes wasn't really talkative as she normally is. Izuku turns to her and says, are you alright? By now you'd have told me everything about your day. He says this and looks over to her, and he saw her crying. And he's like, whoa, what, did I do something wrong? And he started coming closer to Reyes, and Reyes just uppercuts him, causing him to flying into the air. And she's like, do you know how worried I was? Seeing you running into a sea of villains, you may be strong, but I still worry. Izuku got up, rubbing his head, and wipes her tears away. Well, don't, cause I'm doing it for you and our future. So let's go, my mom's waiting. I've been telling her so much about you. He grabs Reyes' hands and they begin running towards his house. When they get there, he opens the door, but no one was home. He sees a letter on the refrigerator and it says, sorry Izuku, I had to step out to get some groceries. I'll be back in 10. He sighs and tells Reyes, and with nothing to do, they just put on a show to watch. After like 3 minutes of arguing about what to watch, Izuku was forced into watching some rom-com, but it was actually pretty interesting. So 5 minutes passed and Izuku felt, Reyes inching closer to him, and eventually had her arms around him. Reyes, I don't think now's the time. My mom's gonna get back soon. And she says, who cares? I want all of you. And she begins running her fingers along his chest, causing Izuku to tense up. She began leaning in for a kiss, and as she was about to, the front door busts open and they hear, Izuku and Izuku's girlfriend, I'm home. Reyes, hearing this, sighs but quickly puts on a huge smile and runs up to Inko, hugging her. She hugs back and says, oh, you're so cute. Seems my Izuku has good taste. Izuku just face palms, and after some more introductions they had dinner together. The entire time Reyes and Inko were laughing, which just made Izuku more awkward, and after dessert he had to walk Reyes back home. Well, by back home, just to a random door so she could use the key to get home. Izuku wasn't really happy about how this all ended up, and while Reyes was walking through the door, she looked back and says, wow, so you're not even gonna say goodbye? She runs back to Izuku and kisses him and says, maybe if you're not so gloomy, you'd get more of those. And she says this as she closes the door behind her. Izuku looked dazed, and he begins walking back home and hears a voice. She's a keeper, isn't she? Yeah, I know, right? Wait, who are you? Oh, I'm Albion, the White Dragon Emperor. So, let's skip to the next day. Izuku was on his way to school and he meets Reyes on the way, and they begin talking while walking back to school. So when they finally reach in class, Aizawa announced the sports festival. And of course, people had questions about how safe it would be considering they just had a villain attack like the other day. But Aizawa assured everyone that, assured them of their safety and gave them 2 weeks to train. So during these 2 weeks, they trained as a class, did some group training, like working on tactics and strategies. And for the second week, people focus on their physical and quirk strength. This includes Izuku, but Rias decided to get help from her mom in mastering her magical abilities, as well as her mom's best friend Akano, who taught her more lightning magic. So time skip to the sports festival. Izuku and Rias had just finished changing, and he sees Rias walk out of the changing room, and he grabs her and takes her to the classroom, which was empty because everyone was like around the field. So he asks her and says, "Hey, I know we've been doing a lot of stuff together, but I wanted to make it official." He takes out a box out of his back pocket and opens it. He opens the box to reveal a necklace with a white diamond pendant at the end of it, and a chain of similar but smaller diamonds, like forming the chain. Izuku looked at Rias as, he puts the necklace around her and says, "Will you be my girlfriend?" Rias looks down at the necklace, shocked, and answers, "I would say yes, but that would be too easy." Izuku had a confused look on his face and he says, "So, no?" He says, "No, it's a yes if you win the sports festival." And Izuku felt like some flames lit his soul. His wings appeared emitting light, and he said, "Definitely." He started flying towards the arena with Rias running behind him. So to the stadium area, the classes were all lined up, and after announcing the different trials they'd have to do during the sports festival, Midnight called Izuku to the stand. "Now, will the class representative please come up and give some inspiring words to your fellow students?" Izuku walked up, his wings still out, and the crowd grew silent. And he said, "To the students of the Hero course, Support course, General course, and even Business course, I just wanted to say, I'm gonna win. But not for me, for her." And he points towards Rias and says, "So don't get in my way," glancing at my Bakugo and Todoroki. So he gives the mic back to Midnight, and after some awkward silence, and President Mike screams, "Let the battles begin." Everyone headed towards the starting line, and with the sound of the horn, everyone began rushing out of the tunnel, but Todoroki, as usual, froze the entire cave over. But Izuku, not even using his sacred gear, goes 15% full cowling and breaks it with a kick. Rias used her red flames and melted the ice, while Bakugo used the heat from his explosion to break through. Izuku was far ahead with just one of his step equaling 10 of Todoroki's, and Rias was using her devil wings to fly, so she was right behind Izuku as well. And her wings shocked a few people, but they just thought it was a part of her quirk. So when they reached the tightrope area, Izuku powered up to 30% and jumped over the entire thing, clearing the canyon and even landing right in the middle of the minefield. But before he did, Rias, who's still flying, grabs him by the back of his shirt and says, "Hey, I said win, don't lose to some dumb mines." And she chucks him back down after they exited the minefield. And Rias was now in first place. Izuku smirks and again powers up to 30%, dashing towards the finish. And enters the stadium right before Rias could, winning the first round of the sports festival. So Todoroki and Bakugo, those people came a minute, 2, 3, 5 minutes late, and everyone watching this was cheering. Some people in the crowds were saying, "Yo, these kids are amazing," And another guy said, "Don't forget about that girl, she's pretty hot." And someone's like, "Hey, knock it off, she's underage." And he's like, "Not in Japan." So, to the cavalry battle. Uraraka came up to Deku and said, "Hey, do you want to team up?" But before she could even finish, Rhea slid between them and said, "Oh, no, he's good. Go talk to Bird Guy or Engine Legs or something." And Uraraka looked a bit sad. She She just went somewhere else, and Izuku said, "You could at least try to be nice for a change." "Well, she was trying to get a piece of my property, and I won't allow that." And Izuku's just thinking, so I'm property now. Good to know. So after Rias blocks everyone from talking to Izuku, they team up. It's just a team of two, which they ask Midnight, and they allow it. And the cavalry battle begins. Honestly, this wasn't too hard. Izuku conjured up some protective magic circles, so they didn't even have to move the entire time, which was a bit broken, but what can you do? So the timer went off and Izuku took down the barrier. Everyone was cheering and thinking how versatile these two, how versatile their quirks were. Not only was it really powerful offensively, but it had good defense. So after that, everyone had a 30-minute break in the cafeteria, and Izuku and Rias, they sat together, as well as Froppy, Ida, and Uraraka. They talked about some random stuff, and Uraraka asked Rias, hey, she asked her about her necklace, and Rias looks down, he's like, oh, this, someone special gave it to me. And under the table, she was wrapping her legs around Izuku's, and Uraraka was a bit suspicious of the two, but didn't pry any further. So Izuku got up to use the bathroom, and on his way there, Todoroki blocked him in the hallway. And he says, let me pass, Icy Hot. And Todoroki says, no, tell me something. Are you All Might's son? And Izuku just began cracking up laughing because Todoroki said this with his usual serious face. And he's like, bro, do you really think I'm his son? Do you see my green hair, my green eyes? Last time I checked, All Might was blonde and had blue eyes. Izuku just laughed this off and tried walking past Todoroki, but Todoroki grabbed his shoulder trying to stop him, but out of reflex, Izuku grabbed his hand and flipped him over onto his back. And Izuku's like, oh, sorry, well, just don't touch me next time. And Izuku just steps over his body and goes to the bathroom. So after he's finished, by the time he got back, Todoroki was gone, and he met up with Rias and the others and headed to the stands. She says, what took you so long? And Izuku's like, nothing, just had an encounter with someone. So let's skip to the first match, Izuku versus Shinso. President Mike yelled start and Shinso began talking. So you have quite the powerful quirk. And Izuku's like, what about it? And Shinso began shaking his head. You hero course students make me sick. You don't know how good you have it, do you? Well, but before Izuku could even finish, he got caught by Shinso's quirk. But as soon as he got caught, he came out of it regaining control of his body, and he saw Shinso on the ground holding his head. So to explain what happened, let's switch to Shinso's perspective. Yes, I've finally got him under my mind control. Wait, let me explain something first. How I'm gonna make his quirk works. He hijacks a person's brain and gives it orders. So sort of like a projection of himself is in the person's brain. So while he's hijacking it, he senses something powerful, and he turns around, and from the dark void, a giant white dragon appears. It took in a massive amount of air and breathes out, sending blue flames towards Shinso, sending him back to his own brain, which mentally strained him. Midnight seeing, and Shinso, as soon as this happened, he fell to the ground holding his head and started screaming. Midnight seeing the pain he was in went over, checking if he can still go on. She tries to make him stand up, but he just falls back to his knees. And she asks how many fingers she's holding up. He says 2, but she actually has 5 up. So she ends the match saying he's unfit to continue, and Izuku wins by default. So the other matches go the same, except it's not Bakugo versus Uraraka, it's Rias versus Uraraka. So Uraraka walked up to the stage, and so does Rias, and before the match started, Uraraka declares, I'll win this so that Izuku can notice me. And Rias smirks at this, then the match begins. Uraraka ran at Rias, and because she did train really hard ever since she met Izuku and she wanted him to notice her. She unlocked an ability to make things make things heavier. So she tries touching Rias, but using a barrier, she blocks her and enlarges the circle and starts pushing her towards the edge. Uraraka was kind of freaking out. She tried running around the circle, but it kept following her. And right before it hit the edge, the circle stops, and this gave Uraraka enough time to get out because Ria, she was at the middle of the arena, so she couldn't really tell how far it was, so she stopped it a bit too early. So Uraraka tries rushing towards Rias once again, but using lightning magic, Rias shocks Uraraka, immobilizing her in seconds. And as she was convulsing on the ground, Rias was declared the winner, and some medical bots got there and picked Uraraka up. Next, Izuku versus Todoroki. As Todoroki walked up, flames were randomly coming off his body, and due to how angry he was, because of what Izuku did to him. So as the go signal was given, Todoroki launched a massive glacier at Izuku, but he just simply flicked this off, and Izuku says, "Come on, Todoroki. You're just being a one-trick pony at this point. You have 2 abilities, so use them." But Todoroki kept sending more and more glaciers at Izuku, which were being blown away with little effort. This making Todoroki even angrier. He rushes Izuku, sending ice spikes, ice walls, ice everything at him for it to be blown away. And Izuku is getting tired at this. "Come on, Todoroki, stop using half your power. You're mocking everyone here." And Todoroki says, "Well, you're one to speak. I was at the USJ. I know your true power. Your wings aren't even out. Stop being a hypocrite." And Izuku is like, "Hypocrite? I'm no such thing. Why I'm not using my true powers? Because you don't deserve it. Like someone so weak. This is basically the equivalent of me fighting a baby right now. Now come over here and let me change your diaper, you big baby." And Todoroki rage begins just like pumping through his veins, and flames burst out of his body uncontrollably, as well as ice. And he launched a combination of the 2 attacks at Izuku, who was smirking now. And he says, "No, that's what I've been waiting for. Divide." And Todoroki's attack was significantly smaller and weaker, and Izuku says again, "Divide." Now it wasn't much to look at. Divide. And now it was just embers and some frost particles. Izuku then looked at Todoroki. "Valiant effort, but this is the end of the road for you." He enters his scale mail armor and flies towards Todoroki, kicking him in the chest, sending him out of the ring. The crowd was going wild at this display of power from both opponents, and Midnight, raises Izuku's hand, declaring him the winner. Next, Rias versus Kirishima. I'd go into detail, but there's not much to say about this one. Rias can use 2 barriers to crush Todoroki until he comes out of his hardened form. So she wins. Next, Izuku versus Ida. Again, not much to this fight. Ida starts off speeding around the arena, knowing he's not strong enough to take down Izuku, but maybe he could be fast enough. But Izuku can fly at near light speed, so he takes down Ida with a 25% one-for-all smash. Next, Izuku versus Rias, and this match was interesting. People were wondering how this match would go because they knew they both were close. Not to the extent of how close they were, but they knew they were close. So Izuku says don't hold back, and he enters his scale mail armor, and Rias, as a signal is given to go, Rias surrounds him with magical circles, releasing a massive bolt of lightning. And when the smoke clears, Izuku was completely fine. He was still in his scale mail armor, but it wasn't much damage to it. Seeing this, Rias just forfeited because that was her strongest attack, and Izuku came over, taking off his armor, he pats her on the back and says, "Hey, don't feel too bad. If I hadn't used Divide at the last minute, that would have probably done some damage." Rias, looks at him and says, "I hate you," and punches him like playfully on the chest, and he smirks and says, "I hate you too." So for the final round, Bakugo versus Bakugo versus Izuku. Bakugo has been waiting for this moment every day since Izuku humiliated him in middle school. Middle school. Now he can finally get his revenge, or at least that's what he's thinking. So Izuku in this is aiming to destroy Bakugo's ego. So the match starts and immediately Bakugo lets off an explosion close to the capacity of his gauntlets, and he's like, "Yes, I got him." And then the smoke clears and Izuku didn't even have a scorch mark on him. This pissed Bakugo off, making him more angry, causing him to send off more explosions after explosion recklessly, destroying the bones in his arms. But nothing even phased Izuku. Not a single thing was burnt. And by the way, what Izuku was doing while the smoke was up, he would enter his scale mail armor, blocking the attack before anyone could see. Then he would revert back into his normal form, so it would look like nothing happened to him. So after 3-4 minutes of constant explosions, Bakugo could feel his bones just breaking apart. And then, Izuku spoke up. "Face it, Bakugo, you're weak. Your little terrorist quirk is useless. It's garbage. It can only cause destruction. I don't even know why you're trying to be a hero, frankly, you villain. You've always have been and always will be." Bakugo, hearing this, just wanted to deny it, but every time he would try to deny it in his mind, Izuku would just speak up as if he could read his own mind. And Izuku is like, "Face the facts, Bakugo. You only hurt the people around you. Why do you think you have no friends? They all left you. Why do you think your dad left you? He was tired of putting up with your shit. And why do you think Aunt Mitsuki is angry all the time? She's trying to out-anger you because she can't take you. Have you ever even seen her smile?" And Bakugo is looking back into his memories and he's like, he can't remember. He's never even seen his mom happy. And even the most, he at times to celebrate when he got into UA, he was so arrogant saying, "Yeah, I don't even need to celebrate this. I was meant to be in UA." They couldn't even enjoy that moment. And his dad left during the 10 months after middle school, the 10 months between middle school and UA because of him. So while he was doing all this recollecting, Izuku's wings came out and he flew full speed at Bakugo and then started using divide after divide. And at the 5th divide, Bakugo was on the floor. Izuku got on top of him and began punching him and punching him and punching him. And the entire stadium was just completely silent. Only the punches echoing throughout. So until midnight had to stop the fight, everyone snapped out of their daze and began cheering again for the winner of the sports festival. Bakugo was taken to the nurse, but wouldn't be able to make it to the award ceremony. All Might awarded Rias with a silver medal, telling her she has great potential and with the help of young Midoriya will exceed her expectations. He awarded Izuku with a gold medal, saying, "Young Midoriya, you have come far, but you have more challenges ahead of you, far tougher than what you experienced today. So just because it was an easy win, don't put it aside. You should learn from this and grow to be the next #1 hero." And there were reporters there. They were hearing all of this, snapping pictures, and articles began rolling out the second All Might even said that. Articles like All Might predicts winner of sports festival to be next #1 hero or something along those lines. So after taking a few more pictures, the day ended and the sun was going down. Izuku and Rias were walking on Dekuba Beach and he says to her, you remember this? This was like where we first met, our first encounter. And I was crying for being too weak, and you gave me like a pat on the shoulder. And Ria started giggling and said, yeah, you were pretty weak. And, Izuku's like, don't rub it in. Anyways, thank you for always being there for me. You protected me for so many years. And he said, now it's my turn. He holds Rias's hands and kneels down and says, will you be mine forever, to hold and protect, to put my trust in, to depend on, to have a family together and make this world a better, more peaceful place. Rias began blushing and just punched him on the head, saying, dummy, we're not old enough to get married. But it does sound enticing, but I'll stick with girlfriend for now. So Izuku got up and pulled Rias in for a kiss as the sun set over the horizon. So that's where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video, and again for being a part of this amazing community that we're building together. I love engaging with each and every one of you and hope you continue to support the community on the way to the top. So for the 2K special, the clue is don't look or you will die. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the what if, if you enjoy my content in general, why not subscribe? I would really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next what if.